Let's take a look at creating a simple render. So we've got our little guy here. Let's add a plane, sort of like a floor. And I'm just going to scale this up, hitting the S key to do that. Now we already have a camera in our scene. And one of the things we can do, we can just go to view and we can see where that camera is. If we come to here, and you can see it's over here on this side. You can also see that the number pad 0 will take you to that. So let's go ahead and kind of position where we want. So let's say I want to come more, I don't know, sort of, I don't know, over here maybe. And we want our camera to be over in this area. So we can use Control-Alt-0 to kind of add that in. We can also hit R if we want to sort of rotate. Oops, let me make sure to select the camera. Make sure your camera's selected, then you can hit R, and you can kind of roll the camera around. You can also change the axis by hitting R, and then let's change, go to Y, and Y again, and we can do the Y axis. Okay, so let's pull out a little bit, and hit that again, so we've got something more like that. Now we'll go to Render. And in order to render, we're just going to use Blender Render. You can hit this button right here. By default, it's going to display it in our image editor. So it's going to switch this over to an image editor view, and it's going to render that up based on the resolution settings that we have down here. So we have some pretty big, 1080p basically. So it's going to render that out. So you can see we've got this large black area. So the position of the lamps aren't really working too well for us. So let's position those and maybe add another one. So let's come in and we'll go back to our kind of our 3D view here. I can move out of that. And so the lamp that we have right now, you can see is right here and it's kind of pointing straight down. We can edit it by coming over here. We can change the amount of energy. We can change the the color of it if we wanted to make it a little bit more yellow. You can see the type of lamp that it is. So right now it's a point. Okay, we also have sun, spot, hemisphere, and area. So let's add another point lamp. So let's come over to Create. And I'm going to create another point. Okay, and this one, let's kind of move over and up. Now, if we render this out, F12 will render, and it'll actually go back and render that camera view, so we don't have to keep going back to the camera view before we render. So now we're getting a little bit more light under there. Well, let's dial that point light down a little bit. So in the energy, let's take this down to maybe 0.5 or so. Okay. Let's add another one. And for this one, let's kind of bring it up over to the side here underneath. And let's make this one maybe 0.3. So we'll take the energy down for that one as well. Oops. And you can also set, for all of these, you can set shadows just by clicking on these. Let's do a quick render and see what that looks like. So again, F12. So from here you can start tweaking, getting more shadows in here to kind of ground it on the floor. You can look at the material and see what you need to do to tweak the material. You can see some of the faceting here. So maybe on the eyes, you want to have a little bit more detail there. So this is one of the things to keep in mind. On your subsurf modifiers, you have the subdivisions for view and for render. So right now we're, in the preview, we're looking at it at a higher res than actually when we render. That's kind of the opposite of what we want. So we want to make sure at least to render it to the same value that we have that we're looking at. Same thing here for the teeth. So we would want to increase that amount as well. because you can kind of see the lines coming in here. So obviously not a great render, but we just want to learn how to kind of where the buttons are, what we need to do to get our pictures out, and then we can start to go through techniques for getting good renders and what those need to look like, and kind of setting up the 3-point lighting and things like that. So the purpose of this course is really just to kind of get you through one kind of small project from start to finish in a very short amount of time, so that then you can go back and start to learn about the specific areas that you're more interested in. And so if you're more interested in modeling, and we went through mainly modeling because that's kind of an easier project to go through, building this up and doing the sculpting and then doing some simple materials and texturing. But there's so much that you can do here in Blender as far as the animation and dynamics, and there's just so much stuff. So, if you've gone through this and you like working in Blender, then I'd encourage you to kind of check out kind of some of the other training. And we have more modeling training right now, but as we go through this process of ramping up with Blender, you're going to start to see more and more courses that are going to cover those different aspects of Blender, because obviously it's a great price point to be able to get this for free. And so the resources that we're going to be putting out for the different aspects of Blender will come in time, so make sure to keep an eye out for those. So I hope you've enjoyed your first day in Blender. We'll see you next time.